were asked to talk about imposter syndrome. What is imposter syndrome? Because like imposter is such a funny word, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, it was one I remembered from like soap operas from the 80s or something.
I experienced imposter syndrome for most of my life.
Sorry.
So imposter syndrome is never feeling like you belong or feeling like you don't belong in a given situation you are. It could be in a job. It happens often in a job. It feels like, hey, they hired me to be the vice president of this company. I don't feel like I should be the vice president. I feel like I'm a fraud. I feel like this is not right for me.
Imposter syndrome is like just like there's that voice in your head that says like, dude, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing, and you don't know how to do this. And what are you crazy?
You're gonna find out you're a fraud. Find out you don't feel like you belong there. My entire life, I actually felt like I didn't belong. My father was divorced and remarried my mother. We had another family. The first family, though they were no longer in the picture, I was in with my cousins, my first cousins, and I never really felt like I was as close to my first cousins as my first cousins were to each other, because they all went to the same school, they all grew up in the same neighborhood. I lived in a different town. I wasn't there in the beginning, so to say.
So you were like a visitor in your own family.
I was a visitor in my own family. So then we moved to a school district that everybody else had been born there and grew up there. Not me. I didn't go to the same classrooms they were. And then in 7th grade, we moved to a bigger school district, and everybody moved to Bucks County. And most of the people there had grown up in that township or 2 towns, and they all knew each other. I didn't feel like I belonged there. But I was outgoing and I was accepted by everyone. Nobody ever told me I didn't belong, which is very interesting. Nobody said, "Hey, Gus, you shouldn't be here. You're not part of this."
It was the voice in your head.
It was the voice in my head, totally. And then on and on at jobs that I felt like I didn't belong, and just my whole life until somebody introduced me to the concept, and not that long ago, only about 5-6 years ago, of imposter syndrome. And I realized, my God, I've had this in my entire life. And there were like 3 times in my life I didn't have it, and they were all in different organizations. And those 3 times I excelled in those positions. I blew the doors off on all three of those jobs.
Most of us don't know we have it. We're just in our heads going, oh shit, somebody's going to find out I'm not that smart, or oh, somebody's going to find out I'm not that good at this, or somebody's going to find out.
Sure.
And then we tend to self-sabotage, right? We prove the little voice in our heads, right? Oh yeah, we screw something up, and then we even say to ourselves, "See, I told you I wasn't that good at this." I think the way that I understand it is essentially everybody on this planet, like every human being, has a voice in their head saying, "You're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not man enough, you're not whatever enough." And then that plays, if we let that voice be loud, it can really control us, or we need to just acknowledge it and then control it and just go like, yo, shut up, little voice, I'm going to go work on this thing. And so some of the ways that this shows up is like, it has to be perfect. It has to be absolutely perfect, or we can't do this. We can't move forward with this. And if it's not 100% perfect, we're not doing it. Attribute success to luck. I think there are times where I said, hey, I put this really great conference together and it helped a lot of people. And then somebody else may said, well, you just picked the right topic at the right time. And I'm like, yep, that's part of it. Another thing, and that's really big, unable to recognize success. Have you ever talked to somebody where you're like, oh my God, that was fantastic, that thing you did. And they're like, oh, whatever. It's no big deal.
Just my job.
It's not as big as that. It was supposed to be this big, but it was only this big. And it's like, dude, just take the win, man. Fear of failure is definitely one that I think we've seen. Well, I've had it forever. I still kind of have it. I don't like failing. Nobody likes failing. Failing kind of sucks, except when, now I understand that when I fail, that I'm taking the lesson forward and I take what I learned and moving forward. But what it doesn't do, it doesn't keep me from trying. It just drives me to work harder.
The simple solution is you can't fail unless you quit.
The other indicator, if you can relate to this, is difficulty asking for help. And I will tell you right now, I still have that problem. I just always thought I was supposed to have my shit together and do it myself and take care of everything. And then when people were like, no, you're supposed to hire people to help you do things. And I'm like, the way to overcome imposter syndrome, there is acknowledge the feeling. Like you got to stop yourself and just go, oh, my little voice in my head is telling me that thing again. Like I'm too stupid. I'm not smart enough. I'm not big, I don't belong. All of those little voices, you just need to sort of stop and just remind yourself like, okay, that little voice is telling me something, but it's just a little voice. So once you've acknowledged your imposter feelings, you need to understand the root cause. Like, why do you feel that way? Like, why is that voice saying what it's saying? Do you believe that you don't deserve success? Do you believe you're going to fail? Do you believe all of this thing, and why or why not? So just spend a little time with it, take a look at it. The next thing to do is to focus on facts, not feelings. So this is a part of, and we're just remember again, as human beings, we are hardwired to have these voices in our head. So you just need to stop it or acknowledge it. But then when you start feeling like a fraud, you need to focus on positive facts. Like, hey, I've got the education, I've got the experience, I've got the ability to go ask people for help, right? This is probably going to work out. So the other thing is to ask yourself if those thoughts that you have, are they helping you or are they hindering you? Like, I know that there are some people who have, like, if somebody tells them you're not good enough, that makes them just go, oh yeah, I'm going to show you, I'm going to rock this out. Now, if somebody comes up to me and says, you're not good enough, I'm like, oh my God. So if something like that is to you as a challenge and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to prove you wrong, mother effer, then that's something that helps you. And if it's something that hinders you, like it would me, because I would just sit there and shrink and go.
One of our mentors, Elena Cardone, she always asks the question, or she states the fact, you're either building an empire or you're destroying one. With every action, every word, everything you do, you're either building your empire or you're destroying your empire.
That's right. So choose wisely.
Yes.
Everything you do, every person who you bring into your empire, every person you don't bring into your empire, every decision that you make, every choice you make. The fifth thing you can do with imposter syndrome, reframe your thoughts. So you recognize you're thinking this, you're deciding whether or not it's helpful for you. Take the next step, reframe your thoughts, and remind yourself, instead of telling yourself that you don't deserve success, reframe your thoughts to give yourself more credit and enjoy the experience. And as I was saying to somebody recently, like, she's got a new job, it's in a new building, it's with the same like super boss that she had, but she has a new like one-on-one manager. And I was just like, man, you're in a perfect position. You have a great opportunity to just lean into this. Like, you have experience, and she was just waiting for, the tide to kind of roll her along. And I'm like, no, sister, you gotta like step up and just say, hey, to your manager, what can I do to bring value to you? Like, what do you need as a win for your organization, for you and your role? And how can I help you get to that? That's going to completely shift her. I hope she does.
So if you don't know how to reframe your thoughts, here's some suggestions.
Instead of like thinking about how much you don't deserve anything, start writing down like why you deserve it. Like,
most everybody has graduated high school. Did you go to college?
You've got experience with this. Maybe you even have experience at home with a similar type of situation.
Look at all your wins.
This is what you bring. Absolutely. Instead of setting impossibly high standards, set smaller goals so you can enjoy the process. I'm actually going to ditch that one. You got to really just go for it. Remind yourself there will never be the perfect time. And accept that we all have to start somewhere. Accept that it's okay to make mistakes.
It is okay to make mistakes. Mistakes are part of life. Mistakes and failure kind of go hand in hand. The most successful people I know make a lot of mistakes.
That's how
you look at in baseball. If you're hitting a 3.33, that's incredible batting average. You're failing 66% of the time.
But the point is you're getting up to the bat.
The point is you're getting up to the bat.
The point is you're taking your swing. Right? And then the last one on here, reach out for support. I am so bad at this, but I'm getting better, is you need to ask for help. You can't be perfect at everything. You can't be excellent at everything. We all feel it. I think that's the key.
Or you're undeserving.
They say like 70% of people feel this way. I think it's probably a lot higher.